This is DDS, Detroit Raw.
Using the cover of an Atlanta limousine driver, Jabari Hayes trafficked large amounts of cocaine across the country for then the largest African-American drug organization in the world, the Black Mafia family, often referred to as BMF. This is Jabari Hayes, Detroit Raw.
Life for me in Gowanus Projects at the time when I was there was filled with wild escapades of kids and teenagers on top of each other, where on any given night on the weekends you could have the Boricuas with their trumpets and their merengue salsa, the Jamaicans with the steel drums. Before crack cocaine hit, it was just a place where a lot of poor people were, but it was in semi-harmony, almost like a tribe.
Look, Hayes describes his upbringing during the 1980s in the projects of Brooklyn, New York, as particularly brutal. He describes the multiple heavy metal doors that the residents of the projects had to go through to enter their apartments. He likened the sound and the clink of the doors shutting behind them to the sound of prison doors when they close.
I first realized there was a problem at home in Gowanus Projects when there was no rice, there were no pennies in between the couch, and we were really on our knuckles.
To Jabari, it was as if the projects were designed to prepare low-income people for prison.
People don't know, when Terry, and Meech left Detroit, they got work out of St. Louis. And my cousin, Q, was the biggest in St. Louis. So that's how the relationship is. They're always tight. He never fell out with either one of them with the sibling rivalry or whatever that is. So he was a segue in everything, but it was mutual. It wasn't like one worked for the other. They were on the same level. In this drug world, sometimes your plug goes out, sometimes her plug goes out. So you got to go to him because you want to keep business going. You still got to provide for your people, you know.
Hayes lived with his mother, who became addicted to crack. Sometimes, he says, he wouldn't know where she was, if she was out trying to buy more drugs or if she'd been arrested. It was a tough upbringing, especially for children in the cocaine era.
When I would come in the house, I guess my mother's, her last dignity was when her and her friends would smoke crack cocaine. She wouldn't let me in the house. She'd have the deadbolt on, and then she would cover my eyes. She'd cover my eyes. Her hand is only so big. I could see, I could smell the crack, I could hear the sizzle. But it was when that hit, when my mother was full on, not freebasing, not sniffing coke, that it was the rich person's thing, and our lives started to deteriorate. Everything changed for us. The world was flipped upside down for my family.
Powdered cocaine was the drug of choice in the 1970s. Drug dealers began converting it into crack cocaine in the 1980s. By the mid-80s, the crack cocaine epidemic had swept through the United States and destroyed many lives, particularly those in low-income neighborhoods.
With different crews, there's a different structure, and it's like a cell. This person driving doesn't ever touch the connect, doesn't ever touch this other person, so it insulates everybody. So when you drive in certain crews, you go from one place and then you have a person that you know and that only you know, and that person gets to work, and then they go to another house with the work, right? And then they disperse it from there or wherever. But it was always a cutoff, kind of like how terrorist cells run. You know what I mean? That these people know nothing about what these people do. So if these people know nothing about what these people are doing, nobody could tell on each other. So it won't, cross-contaminate each other.
However, Jabari was a natural athlete. He was particularly gifted as a track runner. He earned a scholarship to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and began coaching track and field there. He and his friends also started working a valet service. When it seemed that they weren't making enough money, Hayes started his own valet service and eventually a limousine business.
But the first job with BMF started with a simple call. Hey, why don't you book a flight to Texas, to Dallas? And that was it. And it wasn't, hey, well, where do I go to? You don't know none of that. It's just book a flight. When you get there, you get there. Then you call. And then after the call, they pick you up, drive you around, and then it's another confirmation like, hey, is this something that you want to do? And it's like, hey, pass the salt. It's as cool and calm as pass the salt. There's no fear in passing the salt. You don't think twice about passing the salt. It's like, hey, do you want the salt or no?
And through this limousine service, he would traffic hundreds of thousands of kilos, earning millions of dollars for the Black Mafia family. Police captured Hayes on August 4th, 2020, and charged him with a third-degree felony for fleeing from police. He was released on a $20,000 bond. Having violated the terms of his release for a previous gun range incident, he was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison camp. This is Jabari Hayes, Detroit Raw.
There's never a shortage of work. There's never a shortage of kilos of cocaine or millions of dollars for BMF. As Meech told the Connect one time, the Connect asked Meech, well, how many can you do? He said, how many can I do? He told the Connect, a cartel, not just somebody selling. He said, you ain't got enough. You bring 10,000, I'm going to sell 10,000. You bring 100,000, I'm going to sell 100,000. You ain't got enough. And he meant it too.